I guess to start, just initial reactions to the postponement. I know after a game like what you had against Colorado, you want to keep that momentum rolling a little bit. Does this kind of cause a stoppage in any of that at all?
No, I don't think so. I think we got over that the other day, and we're whole, so we'll be able to continue to practice and prepare. And I don't think there's anybody that's not playing as of right now that we could fit in here this between now and Sunday. But we'd love to do that if possible, to keep playing. We just want to play games, and so. But if we can't, we'll be fine. I mean, it was very similar to what happened, going into our Arizona game, and I love the way that the team handled it. It's a very mature group, the way they approach, competition and the leadership. I mean, they just keep their heads about them, which is what this demands. So managing here we go again. Are you kidding? Of all programs, us, the one that's already been, had to cancel 5 games. But it is what it is. You can't control it. And so you can control your response. And so we'll just keep working and getting ready for Sunday.
Do you have any concern about just how many games are going to be stacked here in February as just the conference as a whole? If this keeps up, eventually the schedule is going to get a little wonky here.
Yeah. We're getting to that point. I wasn't worried, before now, and I'm probably not worried. We will do our best to make up whatever we need to make up, and we'll do whatever we have to do to get the number of games we need. I don't see anything slowing us down from this point forward, other than our opponents. And it seems like it's kind of working through every team. The pauses. And so this is Washington State's turn. Unfortunately, it's the weekend we're playing them, but hopefully for them, they recover quickly and get healthy again real soon. And the symptoms are mild and everybody can get back to it and we can get into a nice rhythm, so for us, it's regroup. This was a short week for us. Anyway, because of the Monday game that shortened our week and our preparation for Friday's previously scheduled game with Washington State. Now it's 1 day longer instead of, so it's not terrible. It's just not what we want, so I think from this point forward, I mean, if we can jam games in on Wednesdays, or we're going to do that just so we can keep playing and try to get them all in.
Looking back at Monday's game, what did you see in Ellie's performance that allowed her to just, be perfect from the field?
Well, I loved her mindset and her aggressiveness. And, we saw that in Friday's game. Friday's game was, we went into it with apprehension all of us, I think. It's like, can we do this? It's been a long time. Do we still have momentum? And our defense, kept us in that game. And then just the way that we competed and the way that everybody rose to the challenge throughout our roster was just so encouraging. Ellie actually said it in an interview. She said it was fun. Even though we got beat, that game was so fun. And so then they just wanted more. And I think you just felt hope kind of spread, throughout the team and throughout the roster because of, and take the place of that doubt because of the pause that, so Ellie just carried that, into Monday's game. And I thought we all did. I really liked the way we competed and, the growing pains, we still have a few. I mean, we're still, in a learning curve of our season. We're not executing, perfectly yet, but we're executing pretty well under the circumstances. And, to give themselves a chance to win against Arizona, we just made a few too many mistakes down the stretch, and their, veteran team finished better than we did. We learned from that, and you saw us 3 days later. We were the team that made the plays down the stretch, that hit the big shots to get it to overtime, hit the big shots in overtime, to find a way to win. And so I think Ellie's performance was on par with a lot of people on our team this past weekend. And you could just feel the belief, just growing. And now the groups they just want more, that's what it was after. It was so fun. I mean, being in the middle of that court with Beaver Nation going crazy for the first time in 2 years. It's been a long time since we felt Gil as Gil. And for a lot of them, it's their first time they ever felt it that way. And it was just so fun. We get to the locker room, and the locker room's crazy. And that's what we talked about. We want more of this. And so it's a very hungry team right now that believes that they can be a great team. And, so I thought Ellie was just a big reason for that. And so, yeah, I just thought she had the right mindset. It was like, let's just go play and have fun, and let's find a way to win this thing.
Due to Taylor's absence and Kennedy with a second straight game and some foul trouble, lots of minutes for Jelena, and she came up big down the stretch. What are you seeing from her?
Yeah, what she's capable of. I mean, that's the thing. Jelena is such a good basketball player, so talented. It's just finding her niches, understanding what she can get away with, cannot get away with, and then just developing a nice rhythm and just getting comfortable out there, And so we are deep in the post, and so her minutes have not been. There haven't been long stretches for her. And I know it's hard to find a rhythm when there's not long stretches. And sometimes her minutes have been dependent on how the game's going and who our opponent is. And then our preseason had tons of mid-majors with small, quick centers that shoot the three really well, and so that's not a great matchup for her. And so sometimes her minutes were limited because of the matchup we were playing. And so, you get into conference, teams tend to be a little more traditional, which is what she signed up for and why she's here. And then it's like, okay, let me do my thing. And so I think she changed the game in the post around the basket against Arizona that fourth quarter. I mean, she shut down the rim. Then she did the same thing, Monday against Colorado. And then we saw obviously the big three and that everybody's talking about. And, that's what she does, though. She is a 3-point shooter. She's got such a beautiful perimeter game, let alone the passing ability that she has out there. So it's just fun to see her settle in. I don't want it to be because of Kennedy's foul trouble, though. I mean, that's kind of a weird thing. Kennedy Brown is an excellent defender, a great position defender, understands angles as well as anyone I've coached. And foul trouble has never really been a part of her game, not her freshman year, and certainly not to this point. But all of a sudden, here she is this weekend in foul trouble in both games. Odd, really weird, and I'm not saying she didn't foul. I'm just saying it was weird. So, so those two, are a dynamic duo, at that center spot in Taylor's absence.
And speaking of Taylor, how soon can we expect her back?
Yeah, I don't know. She's been managing pain, for a couple of years, and that's what this is. It's just managing pain and us trying to help her figure out how to alleviate it so that she can play at 100%. So whether it's a short-term, long-term, that's what's up in the air right now. And so I can't speak to when. I can just speak to we want her to, obviously do what she needs to take care of herself to get back on the floor. Because it's hard to watch, a player play through pain. And we've been watching that for a long time with her. And that's the opposite of what we hope for.
About, 2/3-ish of the way through the season here. Just curious your thoughts on Talia's move to that point guard spot. She's playing 28 minutes a game. There's been quite a lot of variance with her shooting performances. There's been days where she's been really hot. There's been days where she's been really quiet. Just what's your assessment kind of been, and where does she need to elevate for the last month and a half here before we really start getting into crunch time?
Yeah, well, it's Talia's situation has kind of evolved, with Taya Adams' emergence. Talia had a lot of weight on her at the beginning of the year as Taya Adams was getting accustomed to our system and getting, more and more, to be honest, belief in herself. I think you grad transfer from a mid-major and there's some of that wondering, can I do this? And what are they asking of me? And this is different than what I've done the last 4 years. And it's a lot for someone to take on, and then since about since early December, Taya Adams has played great basketball for us, which has allowed us to move Talia around and not put so much on her just as our primary ball handler. Now they're sharing that position, kind of like she did a year ago with Aaliyah. Very similar anyway. So we've had her off the ball, we've had her on the ball, and I think that works great for her. That's part of her game, is she's such a really good combo guard. She's a scoring guard and also, a great facilitator, such a good passer and playmaker. So I think for her, you come off last year where it was just like, I don't know what last year was for her. Last year was not real in many ways. I mean, she's coming into a program. I couldn't ask a whole lot of her, because I didn't know what to ask. And I was just thankful that she understood our stuff and that she could, and then she played off Aaliyah, and Aaliyah, a veteran one like that, makes everybody's job easier. And so, she did a great job in that. Well, this year, no Aaliyah, now it's on you. And that's completely different. And so I'm like, man, this is harder than I thought. This is a different role than I've ever experienced. And I have to play in a box a little bit more than I am accustomed to and want to, which actually is what basketball at this level is. You can't just do what you want all the time. You have to play within the parameters of what the team needs and the game needs and the system itself. And so, which she's perfect for, so there's been a learning curve, and it's probably been a little less fun than she's wanted. And it's a little harder than anybody's wanted. And it's nice to see her give into that. I think her defense has just taken huge steps forward over the last month. There's times where she would relax on that end of the floor, and that's a pretty common thing. I don't expect anybody to come in to this level and expect and have any knowledge of what it takes on that end of the court. It's impossible, and until you're in it. And it's like, now she's adapted to that. Now we're seeing her decision making just get better and better, shot selection get better and better. And that's what the freshman year is all about. So this is her true freshman year. Last year was just almost like a field trip. And then reality hit, this year. And so I've loved the process. I've loved watching her step up into it. And I mean, she's as good as she wants to be. She has every tool that there is. She's got the physicality, and she's got the mind that is just off the charts, where she sees 2 and 3 steps ahead every play. And so it's just figuring out what to do when, and so I'm very pleased with where she's at. And I think she's kind of just at a point right now where she's just going to ready to take off. That's just kind of how it feels to me.
I know there's plenty of opportunities in this conference. We say it every year, how competitive the Pac-12 is, but is this the period of time where you kind of start looking at some of these matchups and how it impacts your net and where it might impact your seed line for where you guys are at, especially now? I think you're 55th right now and have some more really big opportunities to make some jumps.
One game at a time, man. I mean, that's all we can control. We can't control who we play. From here on, we just can control how we play. And I think that's our focus, is just to continue to improve. And I feel like as the coach and part of our staff, I feel like we are now understanding our team better than we have. And we are putting them, like this weekend was fun for us to, okay, here's who we are versus in a Pac-12 game. And here's where we can go. And here's what we should avoid. And there's less of that, but more where we can go. And we still have a lot of growth. I mean, we saw AJ play such a great game the other night and step up in such big ways for us. And, that inside out layup she had early in the third quarter, that pull-up jumper she had, her defense. She gave us big minutes, I thought. Well, that makes us better. And Gret is continuing to just same progression that Talia's on. What can I do? What can I do? Who am I in this conference? And, to get to play 2 veteran teams like we did with such good perimeter defenders was so good for those young guards, to learn from. And now we'll just get better each week from this point forward, and so you just hope you find a way to win them all, and so then the net takes care of itself and the seed line takes care of itself. So I think the mindset is just to do the most with the opportunity that you have. And we know that we're going to have some great opportunities over the next, 6-7 weeks.
I'm curious, when you talk about figuring out your team and how that's taken a little bit of time. How much is figuring out the coaches next to you taken, considering, you had Brian and Katie for so long. Now you get Devin and Jenny in there, you got familiarity with Jonas, but that also, I'd imagine, has to be some type of adjustment period too, of figuring out your staff and then figuring out your team through your staff, right?
Yep, 100%. And I find joy in that. I think you're looking for things that are challenges, and that's what makes this whole thing fun for me. It's like, who are these players, and how can we figure this out? Like, I'll be honest. I mean, we're playing against Arizona, who's who they are right now and did what they did last year and has all that experience. And then you look at Colorado, this veteran team, Weta was a freshman, but everybody else is veteran. I mean, we know those kids. And then I look out there, I'm like, we got a lot of new people, in this, and can we figure out a way to beat these teams, with all these new people? And there's a lot of joy in that. Well, there's also joy in, now we've got, Devin and Jenny. Devin's obviously familiar, but in a way different role. And Jenny's new to our program this year, and so to learn from them and to listen to them and then try to make the right decision at the right time and blend it all together so that we have one voice as a staff. I mean, that's fun for me. I think it's a great part of the challenge, but it is part of the challenge for sure. There's not the same familiarity. My role is a little bit bigger this year, just as we're blending those things and getting everybody on the same page. That's fine. And so, yeah, I find that as fun, to be honest. And it was fun last year though, so there's just different versions of it, I guess. But that has been part of the challenge, this year for sure.
What was more nerve-wracking, Monday's win against Colorado, or the future champions golf Napa World Series championship?
Oh man. That's a great question. And so thanks for asking that. I'll just tell you, this was really neat. I got in the locker room. We're celebrating, jumping around. And, my son was 3 shots back of the lead after day one, going into the second round at Silverado down in Napa in California. And I get really, the moment I walked into the locker room, the coach's locker room, to get my stuff to go into the press conference to talk to you guys, Cole calls, and I'm like, okay, I wonder how it went. And I had no updates at all since before the game started, and our game. And he says, I won by 1. I was like, yes, and so that was just a great 30 minutes or so right there. And so I've just learned to navigate them both. They're both equally. Parent is always the most nerve-wracking, actually. I don't know why, but it is. I think that's I look at our parents in the stands, and I just think, you guys have the toughest seat in the house. You care so much, so much, yet you can't control any of it. And so being on the other side through youth sports, and now as golf parents, for Carrie and I, you just want them to succeed so bad. You want them to learn the lessons. You want them to respond correctly. And a lot of times it's just so much out of your control. And so it's a hard spot to be, but it's also a great spot to be. So happy for them. And thanks for asking.